Hi, my name is Mel from Two Feathers Gallery and welcome to this Thumbtack Dragon Egg tutorial. You can use the Colour Shift Chameleon nail polish like I did, or any other nail polish you might have around the home. So please stay tuned till the end of the video where you'll learn about some of my best kept dragon egg secrets, and you can see some of the creative colour combinations, finish variations and patterns, so you can see just how magical they can be. So the first step in making your egg is to get some kind of a surface. I've got a piece of just ripped up cardboard box here, which I find the best that works for me. You can use this foam stuff, I don't particularly like it, and there's this other stuff called foam core, which is quite expensive, but if you've got some old mangy pieces lying around, by all means repurpose it. Much easier to pop your Thumbtacks straight into a bowl. These are 9mm Thumbtacks that I just got from a Officeworks, which is a local stationery supplier here in Australia. However, you can also buy them for about $1.80 in your local supermarket here too. So much easier to pop them into a bowl so you've got really easy access to them. And basically all you're going to do is just push them a little way down into the cardboard until you fill up the entire space. So you don't want to push them all the way down, right down through like this. So you can see how much clearance I've left there pushing the pins in. I'll just do another one so that you can see. It's about that much. And you just want to leave a little bit of space between the pins as well, because you want to be able to get the brush all the way around. Sometimes you might want to do the edges, sometimes you might just want to do the top. It kind of looks groovy if you leave the edges plain. Yeah. So let's keep sticking in these pins. Your pins like you would with regular nail polish and apply 1 to 2 layers of base coat. A really important safety tip is I strongly recommend you paint your pins outside or in a shed and garage area with very good ventilation, and consider wearing a gaseous mask. Gloves will help to protect your hands as well. And here I am doing the second layer, and you can follow that with 1 to 2 layers of the Chameleon nail polish, which has amazing results. And it's important to let your pins dry overnight, otherwise it can damage the polish really easily during construction. And lastly, finish your pins with a final layer of clear top coat. So the Chameleon Colour Shift nail polish has the most amazing purplish, magenta, blue and aqua colour shifts in the light. Or you could choose to use your own nail polish at home. There's a simple rule of thumb to making these, and that is to start with 2 layers of like a fully opaque type of nail polish of the main colour that you would like, or close to the main colour that you'd like. And then for the next layer to add something like perhaps a metallic or a holographic, and then followed by a more translucent layer to finish, like a glitter, or for instance an opalescent moonstone type effect, kind of like the sheen of a dragonfly's wings is one of my very favourites. And then you'd finish that with a top coat layer. So to remove your pins, you can do it by hand, and the advantage of doing it by hand is that you can actually count your pins as you go along. Sometimes you might like to discard any with any imperfections so you know exactly how many you've got. And the other is to use just a simple kitchen knife, and the advantage of doing that is that you can do 2 or 3 at a time, and the quickest and easiest way that I found to do this is to put your cardboard on an angle like I'm doing here and just let the pins drop down to the bottom so they don't get kind of in your way and they don't get any damage. So I'll let you know how many pins I actually used in my egg at the end of the tutorial as well. So you have a choice to make in how you would like to start constructing your dragon egg. You may choose to just skip this step that I'm going to do now and just start putting in the pins straight away, so feel free to skip forward to that. Or you may like to put down a little coat of acrylic paint in the colour matching whatever pins you decide that you'd like to use. And so the reason why I actually do that is to hide any white gaps that might show up underneath. So you can see I've zoomed right in here to a gold egg that I created before. This is actually my first egg, and you can see that there's some little white gaps that are just visible here and here. See a few here and here. And so this is, there's another one there. So this is a reason why you might like to start with putting down an acrylic paint base. And so the best way to apply the acrylic paint to the egg is with what they call, this is usually attached to a little handle and it's called a foam brush. I've just got the foam part, so I've just kind of found some of that foam. I'm using that, and the idea is just to use just a very small amount and just a very dry application. We don't want to completely soak and smother, you know, and get big blobs of paint on. We just want to just gently dab it and just gently wipe it onto the egg. Don't worry if there are little cracks and crevices there. They'll be mostly all covered up. And this acrylic paint dries really quickly, so I'm able to just grab the end of it, and it's pretty much dry by now on that end. Just keep dabbing. So as you can see, very little paint is actually being used. You could let it dry for a couple of seconds and put a second layer on if you like. Why not? Let's do another layer just to make it a little more uniform. So you can see how it looks there with the first layer. I recommend not risking the use of metallic paint as it can eat away and disintegrate your polystyrene egg. If you like, you can do a test with the metallic paint first if you really want to try it. So this is what it looks like when it's finished with painting. Okay, so once all of your pins are ready to go, what I do is just quickly eyeball the center of the egg and make a mark. I definitely recommend letting your pins cure properly overnight if you've used nail polish. I can't stress that highly enough, otherwise when they rub up against the other edges, sharp edges of the other pins, you can get marks, and it's not a fantastic thing to have to deal with. Anyway, so what we're going to do is slightly overlap each pin and make a little flower. If you haven't tried this just with plain gold or silver pins on its own, I would highly recommend trying just a plain one first, just to get a feel for it before you go on with all of your beautifully and meticulously painted little nail polish pins or whatever you decide you like to use. So I'm using nail polish in this tutorial, however I do have other tutorials using alcoholic ink, and there may be some other techniques as well. So anyway, what we're doing is aiming to overlap about 1/4 of the pin on either side when I place it in this position here. So rather than going right up in that corner there, let me just zoom in, rather than going right up in this corner in here, we want to overlap 1/4 of this pin here and about 1/4 this way as well. We're making our way around to make a little flower, and that's step number 1. So let's just continue on with that. And you can see when it moves around in the light, the just absolute gorgeous colour shift that we have happening in the Chameleon Picture Polish nail polish. So you can see there's like bits of purplish kind of colour coming here. Whereas before when I had it on the sheets, it looked like an aqua green, so it's just absolutely stunning. So here's our little flower. I'm so happy with how that worked out. Just the finish is beautiful, and it's been finished with a layer of clear nail polish as well, just to make sure it's all locked in nice and tight and it's not going to have any issues with being marked, and it's completely protected. Little dragon egg. So now we're just going to continue to make our way around with the flower. You may or may not have noticed, I think that's got a couple of little bits on it. I might not use that one. You may or may not have noticed that I'm using just a glass just to pop the pointy end of the egg into, just to start off. Just makes it a little bit easier to maneuver around and just to show you that flower. You never know how many pins you'll need for any of the eggs, because every overlap is going to be slightly different, so it can be any number of pins. On average it could be anywhere from about 170 to about 230 to 240 pins per egg, just in my own experience with a 78mm size. There we have our first little bit of flower. So we've got centre pin and 2 little rows going around, and we're going to continue to do rows around like that all the way. And you can have a little play with your egg as you go along, and because it's very bottom heavy with all the metal at the bottom, you can just kind of mess around with it and play around with it a little bit if you like. It's a bit of fun. So let's keep going with the next layer, and you can see that the paint here, I started with the black. I did a layer of Prussian blue over the top of the black to match in with the bluish colour a little bit more. So in the event that the teeny tiniest little bit of the underside of the egg shows through, you can't really tell, and it just looks like a shadow, like magic. It just disappears and it looks fantastic. So I highly recommend doing that as well, just because I love making these dragon eggs, and I like them to look absolute best that they can. And I'll show you a couple of little polymer clay dragon, or a couple, oh my gosh, when I say a couple I mean like a million, trillion, gazillion little dragon stands that you can make yourself. I've got some that are really easy for kids to make. They literally take a couple of minutes, and then they vary and go all the way up to a very finely detailed little dragon figurine egg stand as well. So that can be another fun project that you might like to include when you're making your dragon egg. So we're coming towards the end of our dragon egg now. And I just thought I'd show you the top, as the top is always different. Like every little overlap that you do, it's going to be a little bit different. So is the top when we finish there. I like to start my dragon eggs at the bottom with the flower and work my way to the top, and some people will do it the other way around. I'll show you what to do if you get to the end and you're not sure exactly how to finish it off. I think we're just going to make it in terms of the amount of pins that I've made. Yeah, so sometimes there may be little pins that you reject for some reason. They might be a little bit funny looking or have a little chip on them, or so yeah, it's always good to make extra pins. So for instance, I've got a couple of little chips here and here. I know that I can really easily cover them up with the pins that go after that, so I'm going to keep using that little one. But then there are some that might be unsalvageable and you may have to use different ones. Keep that, you can repair it or keep it for another project. continuing to spiral around, circle around at least. Now you can see that's the dead center of our egg here, and if I were to pop a pin straight down there, there's going to be a whole lot of gaps there, and at the moment I'm missing a little bit of space here. So what would you do? So what I would do is just remove the last couple of pins. First of all, we want to get that shape complete, so we want to kind of bring this up further and overlap them more than what we usually would, just to finish off this little flower here. So I'm overlapping them more than what I usually would, and then that means that we can close up that little gap that was there before. And so we're still left with this problem that if we put this pin in, there's going to be little bits showing. So the answer to how we can actually get around that is to use 3 pins instead of 1. So we just might take a little bit of wiggling the pins around to get them exactly how you want them. However, as long as all the little gaps are covered, that's all you really have to aim for. And you kind of don't want a pin sticking up about 3 mil high, out here. They're sticking up a little bit, but they look like they're kind of flat and a part of the egg. So we've solved that problem by putting 1, 2, 3 little pins on top instead of the 1. And so that's how I would finish the top of the egg. So for this egg, I actually made 229 pins of thumbtacks, and I used 215 in total, so that was pretty close. And so if you would like, I have some other tutorials on different types of dragon eggs. So this is Mossy by Picture Polish, and I love these nail polishes, and I couldn't mix anything close to them. So it's also really amazing to hold your dragon egg in your hand for the first time, because they have a real weight to them, and that they're such humble materials of just polystyrene, some thumbtacks and some nail polish, and they just have this really expensive and gorgeous feel and finish about them, which is really hard to describe unless you've got it in your hand, and it just really turns it into a precious object. You can make a plain egg like I did, or you can mix up all different types of pins to get a really harmonious, beautiful looking egg like this one. Some of the dark green pins, I have to point out, are finished with a UV resin, so they're super shiny, which looks awesome, and it's a really thrifty way to make an egg, because you save a lot of money if you're using all of your leftover pins. I love this crimson and lavender egg. It's obviously a bigger 100mm egg, and also I just wanted to show you that I've used a 2-part resin and mixed in a mica powder and a glitter, and held the pins on an angle, set them on an angle so that the resin pulls at the edge of each pin, so it gives them more of a 3-dimensional look and feel to all of the pins. So I just wanted to show you how many different finishes and creative things that you can do with them.